So I'm gonna. Usually, I ask the guests to introduce themselves, but you know what? I think I know you well enough.
You can do it,
Mr. Zach Macklovitch.
I'll correct you if you make any mistakes.
I'll let you add on anything if you feel it's necessary.
Thank you.
So today in the house we got Zach Macklovitch, owner of Apartment 200 LA, Apartment 200 Montreal, Apartment 200 Toronto, the Saintwoods brand, École Privée. I'm trying to list off everything. Loic. Saintwoods vodka. What else did I miss? Suwoo, yeah.
Names on the way.
Yeah.
We have our carpet brand that we've been launching, Catalog 3 as well.
Okay.
That we launched earlier this year. Opening up the new spot Doubles. That'll be opening up next month. So that's not, I guess that doesn't count yet, but that'll be coming soon.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. So
are you going to add that in your bio, your Instagram bio?
I'm thinking about changing the Instagram bio, to be honest with you. I think right now it's really, I get a lot of questions where people think, you know, and I don't knock it, but people are like, think I'm kind of more of a promoter. So I think I'm thinking about changing it so it shows says a little bit less. My partner Nate is much better at like saying less, and it's something that it's kind of like one of my 2023 resolutions is say more by saying less. You know?
Less is more.
Yeah, sometimes. Definitely on social media, I think. Yeah, but I think you did a good job, honestly. Better than I expected. Again, I've watched a couple of these episodes. I think that's a great intro. I'll take it for sure.
Well, thank you very much for being here today. And for those of you that don't know, Zach and I, we go way back. We've known each other. We were acquaintances at the age of, 14, 15. In high school, we went to different high schools. And then we developed a closer relationship 17, 18 when we started working.
Right around CEGEP, yes. Yeah. Start of CEGEP, we worked at those at a great program, Parks program, which was back then it was sports camps. Then we moved to Parks program where, you know, we were just able to get to know each other more, both on like as friends and as, you know, I think both of our competitive natures spoke to each other, and that got it going. We'll leave that for a different interview, but no, we know each other for quite some time. Definitely it's been a pleasure to see you.
You already brought it up. You already brought that part up.
I brought it up quickly so we could move past it. I wanted to start with that, and then we can get going. We can move past that. I'm not going to bring up any specifics. We have heated rivalries.
The audience right now is probably like, what the hell
are they talking about? This is an inauspicious start, but at least I know it's going to be an honest conversation.
Okay, so I wanted to start off with what is, you know, you've always been very entrepreneurial, and the podcast, so the Freemium podcast, I like to, you know, we talk about all types of things, but the audience that we have is more, it's a professional audience, I guess you could say, young professionals. Let's call it that. People who've just started their new businesses, people who have existing businesses, people who take their careers, they want to level up their careers, I guess we can kind of say. So
stressed out individuals.
Yeah, definitely that. You've always been extremely entrepreneurial. Difficult to say that word. You're not afraid to try new things. And so one of the first things I want to talk to you about is let's talk about the brand of Saintwoods.
Cool. Yeah. Appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, so Saintwoods, what a lot of people might not know is I actually didn't start the brand Saintwoods, right? Like I bought into Saintwoods. It was a company that my now business partner Nathan and 3 of his friends started while they were in university. They moved to Montreal from Toronto, and identified that within the McGill ecosystem back then, and it's important, I'll just make a quick caveat, you know, as entrepreneurs, it's important to look at cultural trends and shifts within our environments. And I think that where the original Saintwoods was off the jump, they identified an opportunity that there was an opportunity to monetize the party aspect of university. And they really were at the forefront of introducing international DJs and global talents to Frosches, specifically in McGill and, you know, that university, that massive university subculture that we have here. So, you know, they were bringing in artists ranging from like Skrillex to Kid Cudi back in, you know, this is probably 10 years ago, if not a bit more. Definitely more now, probably closer to like 13 or 14 years ago. And, you know, now it's so normal that you'll see, you know, Carnage is playing at like Georgia University Frosh. But back then that wasn't the way it worked, you know. So they really were at the forefront of that, and they started doing events all over all over kind of Eastern Canada. So everything from the Maritimes to all over Ontario and their university markets. And they did really well for themselves. And then, as you know, like I kind of had my own nightlife kind of career on the side. I started when I was really young. We could probably talk about that a bit later.
Definitely.
But so I had my own thing, and then I got to meet Nathan as his friends were kind of moving on to their careers that they've all done incredibly well for themselves. But they were kind of tired of Saintwoods, and the goal for Saintwoods was always to create a lifestyle brand. And I think where we were able to kind of, when Nathan and myself met, I was able to bring my strengths and my understanding of, you know, the fashion industry. I had a clothing brand when I was really young, like 18 or 19, called Myron's. And I think
that I modeled for.
That you modeled for, and you did a great job. I wish you would still model, to be honest with you. But you and Peter and Brent, still one of the great. That shot's iconic. My mom has it framed in her crib. I don't know why, but so I met Nathan, and we had the ability, you know, we really saw eye to eye, and I had never really had like a true business partner. I had guys that I worked with at specific bars under like specific nights, but I didn't really have a guy that like, oh shit, I can build with somebody. You know, I found the yin to my yang, as I like to say, you know. And when we met, I didn't really have a brand. Like I had Myron's, my clothing brand, but I didn't have like an event company that I worked with. So, you know, a very long story short, me and Nate decided to partner, and I ended up getting in on half of Saintwoods, and we had that brand together. And then it was our goal to kind of merge my market that was kind of more Montreal outside of university and his university market into one, kind of to just have like the young nightlife scene kind of on lock. And then when we were doing that, you know, we were always giving out like merch, like just like party swag, because again, you want people repping your brand, and you know, you want to give a girl, the pretty girls at the party, something to go home with so they remember who threw the party, etc. And then people really started wanting that gear. Like, you know, we'd make 30 t-shirts and they'd be gone before we threw the party because people would be, you know, eating it up. And then we decided to kind of monetize that. And now, you know, I think we can get into the details, but over the last 10 years, we managed to turn what were a couple t-shirts that we would give away into a more than six-figure clothing brand that is sold in every continent and is well represented by celebrities. And, you know,
I mean, yeah, because that's one thing. I'll pump your tires a little bit.
Please do.
I mean, you tagged, I follow you on Instagram. I follow Saintwoods on Instagram as well. I mean, Justin Bieber was rocking your stuff the other day. There are serious celebrities, A-list celebrities that wear your stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of that comes from like, you know, stylists that reach out to us. It's not, and you know,
how does that work? But just a quick question, just a little quick detour here. When celebrities, so for example, let's take Justin Bieber. Is he purchasing that, or are you guys sending the merch for free?
For the most part, like, I don't exactly know how Justin got those shorts. I know that at times we've sent packs to his team or to his stylists, but I can't remember if the shorts were in there. It's not like you know. So sometimes these guys will have. It's hard to say because every celebrity or every A-lister, not even A-list, just anybody that you want to see, you know. Because for us, as much as it's great to have, and it's incredible to have a talent like Justin Bieber or whoever those, like, you know, Kate Trinata, a friend of ours or whatever, that will wear and support our brand. That's incredible. But there's also, like, you know, we've seen a lot of success in supporting what I like to call, like, you know, micro-influencers is such a corny term. Like, I don't like using it, but like community leaders in a wide range of different like cultural levels. So everything from a party promoter to a local DJ to the coolest waiter at an obscure restaurant that hip people go to. Like, you want to make sure that the right people are wearing your gear. So gifting is a big part of what we do to target the right people. But then what will happen often is they'll like the brand and they'll buy into it. And the next thing you know, we'll see orders coming in from them. And also what will happen is they'll have a personal shopper or they'll have an account at a specific boutique, and they'll be, let's say we have a great partner in the Webster. They're a fantastic clothing store that has locations all over North America. They have a lot of celebrities that come there, and often they'll walk in with their stylist and they'll walk out with a couple Saintwoods pieces next to their, you know, the Casablanca or the Dior or whatever else they're buying. So there's any number of ways they get it, but I think that people, I like to think that characters like the ones we've mentioned appreciate how real we are as a brand and what we kind of try and do for culture overall and the way we try and bring people together. And, you know, thankfully it's resonating.
Because you guys, what you've always been very good at is I guess.
Is this going to stay this complimentary the whole time? This is fantastic. It's the nicest Curtis has ever been to me. Man. 15 years you haven't been this nice to me.
One thing, no, because your strength is definitely when it comes to brand. I guess we can call it the artistic side. I don't know if that's, you know, you're more in tune with the terms than I am.
Yeah, funnily enough, I don't do the artistic stuff at Saintwoods.
Okay,
that's not my job.
But you understand brand. How do I say this? You're just good at brand. You're good at branding yourself, and you're good at branding other things, and you're good at. It's one thing to, so for example, and we can kind of get into this a little bit later, but so you have a clothing line and a lot of, you work in hospitality. Mm-hmm. You own several bars and restaurants, and all the places that you own, you're very good at getting people to come to these locations.
Yeah.
That says something. Like every location that you're involved with, you understand human nature very well and what's cool and what isn't and what people want and what they don't. Because it's not, I'm not that good at the branding side of things.
So I think that branding, marketing, you know, a lot of what those were traditionally defined as, what branding and marketing were traditionally defined as, it's been completely turned on its head in the last 5 years.
In what way?
So I think that what myself and Nate and our amazing team of young people that helped me do, I wouldn't be able to do anything if it wasn't for the people that we have working with us. I think what we're good at is studying and understanding macro social trends, or maybe micro social trends, but really being aware and being honest with ourselves about what the community that we're trying to speak to, whether that be the clothing community and the community for apartment and the community for École and the community for Loic. There might be some intersection there, but they're all very distinct groups, right? Or somewhat distinct groups. And I think that whenever you're starting a business, ranging from our carpet company to our clothing brand to our vodka, you need to think about, okay, who's my honest consumer, not who is my aspirational consumer, or you know, who do I wish would come here, but who's coming here right now, right? How do I communicate with them? And then how can I, without losing who I already have, go and find what I want, go and get that aspirational people, expand it. Yeah. But you got to look at it as a calculation, right? Like, as much as, to your point earlier, like it might come off as artistic, it isn't really. It's more mathematical, where you look at like, okay, this is who people are listening to. This is what they're listening to right now. Now you might say, okay, well, you have a keen understanding of musical trends or this or that, but it's more of like okay, get an understanding of the music. That's one. Get an understanding of the lighting. That's two. Get an understanding of the kind of people that's in there. That's +3, right? Like, I'm talking about staff or your manager. And you really just have to add all that stuff up to get to that total that you're trying to hit. There's no secret metric to it or crazy like philosophy that we use differently than somebody else. I think that it's that we look at it emotion free and we say, okay, what is it going to take to attain this goal? What do we really need to do step by step to go and be the hottest restaurant? Okay, maybe we need to improve our food. Okay, what do we do to get there? Well, we need to find a chef that's going to design the menu. We need to find a sous chef that we can trust to run the kitchen, or a chef de cuisine.
To be a number two.
Who can execute regularly. Yeah. We need to do the marketing for that food to make sure that people understand it. Maybe we want to do a media night or a blog, or you know, get some press around it. But when you do all those four things, if you do all of those four things successfully, you will attain the goal you wanted. That's just the way, in my opinion, business works. And I think that the reason we've been able to see the kind of success and growth we've had over the last 10 years is because we really do, like, we add it up. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we want service to improve, or we want the quality of our product and the clothing to improve. Okay, well, we're not going to stop until we find the right manufacturer. We're not going to stop until either our managers or our operations team agree with us, or like we're all on the same page and we're all going on that same direction. But it's really it's staying true and staying honest to where you are and where you want to go, and setting realistic goals and steps to get there. And if you follow those goals and if you follow those steps and attain those goals, you're gonna get there. Like, that's the way I think business works, right? It's not there's not so much luck in it. There's no, nobody has a magic wand where I'm like, and this is going to be successful, right? Like, it's not really how we hit it.
Yeah, but you're right. It's never a guarantee, but most of the places that you open, they're always busy.
Yeah, but
there's something. No, I don't think you realize though, but your brain and I just keep pumping your tires.
I love this. Yeah. We gotta come here more often. Go freemium.
No, but it's like what you're explaining to me right now. My brain doesn't work like this. I'm more, even though you said it's math, I don't find what you just said mathematical. You said at the beginning, you go, it's quite mathematical. Actually, I don't. My brain doesn't work the same way that your brain works.
I think then where that can expand to continue this conversation, I think that I think you can train your brain to look at it mathematically. I think that you can start identifying challenges that may seem very daunting to you because maybe you don't fully understand it. Like, for example, if you told me, Zach, you got to make the food better at restaurant A, that's a goal. Well, at first, as somebody who can barely cook a sandwich. That's the level of food of knowledge I have. Can barely make a sandwich that he wants to eat at his house. How am I going to design a menu that people from around the city, a city like Montreal that has such an incredible food culture, how am I going to fix the food scene in my restaurant? Well, the first thing is admitting that I have no idea what I'm talking about, right? And then the next thing is finding people within my network or making friends or reaching out to people that I aspire to work with and landing on somebody who can help me. And then you got to allow that person to be better at the job than you are and listen to them and talk to them and support them in helping you reach where you want to go. Now, that goes for every level of my business. That goes from the graphic design. Like I'll say for Loic, for example, I knew that for the branding for Loic, I wanted to do something that kind of gave me a Swiss poster Bauhaus vibe. I knew I thought that would personally speak to the demographic that we're trying to reach.
See, what you just said, my brain would never say that.
Yeah, I mean,
I would walk in and go, "Oh, I like the lighting."
No,
that's the extent of what my brain would say.
But I think that when you do it full time, like when speaking to people without them knowing you're speaking to them is your full time job.
Yeah,
you learn that when you walk into a restaurant, when you interact with a restaurant or a hospitality product, you're always talking to your client. You're talking to them by the social media that you post, by the lighting when you walk in, by the way that your waitress or bartender are dressed, by the greeting that your hostess gives, by the quality of the food. You're talking to them constantly, right? Mm-hmm. And in today's world, with the way social media and with the way our phones are always just in our hand, your brand is always speaking to people. One of the reasons why I love what you're doing here, I'll pump your tires for a second, is that you're finding a way for KBD to speak to your demographic and to the people that you would eventually like to work with in different ways than a normal company would.
The same thing as what you were saying earlier. We're trying to speak to our existing clientele, and then we are obviously trying to expand our clientele, expand the network. Obviously, we'd like to continue to grow as a business, and how do you do that? More people know about the brand, and more people interact with the brand.
Exactly, and they get to know you, and they trust the business. Yeah. And I think that to let's say we were using Loic as an example. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew I do buy because I do like collecting design books. I love visual advertising. It's something I've loved since I was a kid. My parents were in ad sales. My dad specifically was in print ad sales. It was always something that really interested me. My mom would bring me to the museum as a kid 4 times a year, like clockwork. We'd go on specific dates, birthdays or Mother's Day, whatever, when we travel.
Both your parents are very cultured.
Yeah, I like to think so. They're both insane, but they're also cultured. And they would really, all to say that when it came to Loic, I had an idea of what I wanted to do with the visual direction. Now I have an amazing player on our team, this kid Nick Schmidt. I joke that he's a walking mood board. The guy has a visual memory of he's the best I know. You know what I mean? And if I say, Nick, I really want to do some kind of Swiss poster thing. These are some images that I found. Can you help me build out this mood board? Nick takes my brief and comes back to me with 10 pages of incredible graphic design inspiration. Well, then I have Thomas, our creative director, and Flo, our lead designer, take that and we distill it together. Okay, what are the rules for the brand? What's our color palette? How can we take these shapes that we're seeing throughout Bauhaus and Swiss poster design, and how can we bring that and speak into a bit more modern, but that still is inspired by that? And then how can we make sure that it's still communicating the information that we need it to communicate? And how do we make sure it doesn't get stale after 2 months or 3 months?
Yeah,
exactly. So again, as somebody who has no idea how Illustrator or Photoshop works, I'm still able to create an infrastructure that is allowing me to produce what I want to produce.
So here, Zach, before we go on, I would like for you to, because I even have questions about Saintwoods as well. I understand the global picture of how it is. You have Saintwoods as the brand, so you have the clothing, you have the vodka underneath, and then can you just explain the organizational structure of Saintwoods? Because we haven't gotten into that. What exactly does Saintwoods do?
What exactly does Saintwoods do? Okay. So first and foremost, we are a product-based company. So we sell everything from clothing to home goods to accessories. That is the core of what Saintwoods' ethos is we create products that speak to our demographic. Our demographic are people that are interested at the intersection of music, art, and culture, that are aware of current trends but maybe not wanting to follow them fully. They want to express themselves. They want a bit of tongue-in-cheek. They want a bit of humor. They want to know that the quality is there, and they appreciate luxury items. That would be like the very quick, this is who I think Saintwoods' demo is. Now, does that shift? Is that everybody who buys our brand? No. But that's kind of where I think we like to, we don't take what we do too seriously, in the sense where we don't think fashion needs to be austere and like, look at how cool we are, we're in fashion. I think we want fashion to be fun and accessible, but it's still premium and it's not cheap. So that's what Saintwoods clothing is. Now, if we're going to talk like corporate structure, Saintwoods as an office, we have two main forms of revenue. We have the products that we sell, and we have the contracts that we work on. Now, if you work at Saintwoods, which again, I have an amazing team of about 12 full-timers that truly are some of the most amazing young people that I'm blessed to get to work with on a daily basis, and they all bat way above their weight, and they're amazing. But you wear a lot of hats, right? So the designer that is helping to design our clothing collection, or Tom, who's the creative director of Saintwoods, he is not only doing creative direction for Saintwoods' pop-up shops, clothing releases, and home goods, he's also doing the creative direction for our hospitality clients. Now, the ecosystem that we've developed is that each of those aforementioned bars and restaurants that you spoke about, Saintwoods does the marketing, branding, brand development, programming for those businesses.
Got it.
So we work on a retainer, and our own businesses pay, instead of paying an outside agency, we're able to pay ourselves. And that helps us establish a more consistent.
So it's like, Saintwoods, if I'm understanding correctly, it could be split 50% into more or less a marketing agency or a branding agency, let's say.
Marketing and branding.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the other half would be selling actual tangible products.
Absolutely. Now, Saintwoods vodka is not under Saintwoods clothing. In fact, it lands more similarly to like our hospitality products. So it's an outside co.
Got it.
Not to get into the nitty gritty. Maybe this is for the deep cuts, people who watch the whole podcast. But
so do you have Saintwoods, the holding company, and then have these as subsidiaries underneath of the holdco, or it's just this is one corporation?
So I have a holdco, and then.
Well, that's you personally. I'm talking the actual.
So Saintwoods doesn't own the hospitality products.
Got it.
It's they're separate businesses and different shareholders in each of those.
When you say that, okay, so Saintwoods does not have equity in any of the restaurants.
No.
Got it. But they will handle the marketing and the branding of the restaurants.
They are one of our clients.
And the restaurants, I don't care which ones, but some of them will pay Saintwoods.
All of them.
They all pay that. Got it. When you go in, do you make that as part of the deal? So say, hey, I'm going to come. I want equity in this restaurant. I want equity in this hospital.
We tend to quarterback a lot of the products that we develop, right? So the hospitality projects that we're developing, for the most part, all but one were projects that we developed. We worked with our partners A5 in developing financing and putting the rest of the team together. But all of them, for the most part, except for names, were products that like we started the development of. So it's not like I'm really pitching to anybody. It's and the people we bring on are aware that is just the nature of the beast. You want, and also you're gonna need to pay somebody to do that work, right? You're silly if you think you're gonna open up a bar. Not you're silly. Maybe you're trying to speak to a different demographic. Maybe you're. I think today brands, you can't develop a brand without a good visual language, without good social media, without good cultural programming.
I would totally agree.
So you're going to pay somebody to do that. If you want to be a successful hospitality product, you got to pay somebody.
Because if you're not doing it, everyone else is.
Exactly.
And
so it's and we charge, honestly, we charge a very fair price for the amount of products, the amount of service that we offer. So it's not like we're rinsing our partners or we're rinsing our businesses. We're giving them a fair deal. And we're doing really good work. So why would they be unhappy about that, you know? And it allows us to get into the nitty gritty of, you know, that entrepreneurial life, manage our cash flow, have a definite consistent revenue source. And it allows.
It's very similar to insurance because retainer, it's like annual recurring revenue. It's every month and you get the same thing, recurs. And you know, it's very stable for cash flow and you can predict a lot more. It's way easier to make a budget because you can more easily predict your revenue for the year.
Well, yeah, and then clothing, you know, as much as thankfully we've been seeing great sell-throughs both direct to consumer and through wholesale, it's not as stable. It's just not.
I'm sure.
There are more, you know, no matter how much you love a collection or no matter how much you love a piece or you invested in it, doesn't guarantee that it's going to be your best seller. You obviously have certain seasons that are better than others, and you need to make sure you can keep the lights on. And you got, you know, one thing I'm very proud of is that myself and Nate never really had any like very real outside financing. You know, we've had some help over the years. We work with some financial institutions and financial partners that help us, but it's not like we were one of those businesses that started with any of our parents' money, you know, or where we had some form of like, yeah, we're going to start this business and have $1 million in the bank, and then from there we can, you know, do everything as we go. We've been bootstrapping it from the beginning.
Would you be comfortable talking about which financial institutions, because everyone, and this is something that I've talked about a lot with other people that have come onto the podcast, there's one recurring theme. Every single business needs cash to start up, and a lot of times you don't have the cash yourself, so you have to go find that cash somewhere. And a lot of times for businesses just starting out, you can't go to a regular bank. They're not going to give you the money.
So you can never. So whether you're a business that's just starting off or not, if you're in Canada, don't go to a bank.
I can't.
Nobody.
We have
can.
30 employees. I can't get money from a bank.
I have 110 employees with all the bars and restaurants. I can't get money. They look at me like, "Oh, what's a bar and a restaurant?" I'm like, where do you eat, bro? Like,
so where did you get, or where do you and where did you get your capital, your money?
Primarily private lenders.
Okay.
Primarily private. So
individuals.
Individuals. Okay. As we've gotten a little bit bigger, you know, there's some great programs in Canada. BDC is surprisingly, not surprisingly, BDC is a government organization that does a lot of good work, especially during COVID, man. That should helped a lot. I'm sure. You know, PME is another great program for those who are based in Montreal. They offer a lot of solutions, and they have a really great staff that implicates themselves.
Does PME? I don't fully understand what it is exactly that they do. Do they lend money to all different types of industries, or do they have a niche?
No, they're there to, they're BDC for Montreal.
Got it.
So they're a fund that is there to help. Maybe also call PME. They'll probably do a better job of describing themselves than I will. Yeah. But from what I understand, they're a fund of public money that is there to support entrepreneurs and help people. Because
is it
Canada,
loans or do they
it's
take
both. There's
equity?
Loans and grants. There's no equity.
No equity.
No
okay.
equity. BDC, same thing. No equity.
Okay. Interesting.
Loans and grants. Can you put the mic a little bit closer? No problem. Yeah, loans and grants.
No problem, Joey.
No problem, Joey. Got you, big man. Yeah, that's. Do you want me to redo? I think that question's good. We can keep going.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. And honestly, I like when this type of stuff is actually in the podcast.
Gotcha, Joey.
Comes across as more authentic.
Good.
Because this is the most
pretty authentic.
This is the most authentic podcast you're ever gonna hear.
There's a dog.
By the way,
in
you
this room.
Can swear if there's a dog.
There's a fucking dog in this.
No,
room.
that's my dog. Don't talk to her
about.
Don't talk to her like that. It's okay. Yeah, you can swear here if you want.
Good.
By the way.
I mean, I was gonna wait.
For me to swear first?
Once they top off my glass with that Saintwoods vodka, maybe I'll start getting a little bit crazy.
Okay, so Saintwood, there's something, because we've talked about Saintwoods vodka as well. Mm-hmm. So Saintwoods, the actual brand itself, the organization makes sense. You have the marketing side of things. Let's call it 50% of revenue from
product.
Yeah, and then the other part from product. The Saintwoods vodka part. and this is something that I know you're very passionate about as well.
I do love drinking vodka.
So you make, number one, how do you make this?
So we
hold on, let me finish my question.
Please.
Number one.
You said number one.
I was going to get out to number two. I was going to say number two. So, and number two, why don't you, and you can let it all out.
I'm going to let it all out.
Why don't you sell Saintwoods vodka to all the bars and restaurants that you own here in Montreal?
Well, I do.
You do, but I remember. Okay, I'll let you.
So,
I'm mistaken.
So yeah, first of all, Curtis is wrong. Something that we'll see will happen probably a couple times throughout this podcast. I do sell the vodka at all the bars and restaurants.
Are we going to start shitting on each other now?
No. It's no. We're keeping. No, compliment season is done. I don't know if we're going to go straight to shitting on each other, but no. So we do sell Saintwoods vodka to all the bars and restaurants that we own. The
reason I asked that, I just want to put this in. The reason I asked that question, I remember when you had when the product was finally finished and it was ready to start selling to these restaurants or bars, whatever, you were expressing your frustration with the SAQ and the fact that I don't even remember the whole entire process, but just kind of how ridiculous it was.
I don't think it's fair to blame the organization that is the SAQ. I think that when you look at the way when you give governments control over certain sectors of industry, whether it be alcohol, I think a lot of people are seeing it within the cannabis industry.
Yep.
When you overregulate a product, la paperasse, the paperwork becomes key to, like, they love paperwork, right? Because they're not entrepreneurs. Their goal is to hire people and to create jobs and to protect those that could be negatively affected by these businesses, right? Now, the difficulty...
It's a very nice way to put it, but...
You know, continue. They are my partners, right? I'm trying to be polite here.
That makes sense.
But there are definite, especially now that we're expanding to the States. By the way, our vodka is made in the States, important to mention.
Okay.
And... So one of the reasons why it's been so challenging is that I'm essentially I'm importing the product.
Yes.
It's an import. Now, if I was making my vodka in Quebec, it would be far easier for me to, let's say, to get better treatment, although it's not like the SAQ is specifically giving me bad treatment. It's just they really prioritize and support Quebec businesses. Now, regardless of the fact that the primary owners of this business live in Quebec or are Canadian, if I'm not making it with Quebec distillers, they don't give a shit. I'm an import.
And the reason why you are making it in the U.S., I would assume, is because the cost is significantly less than if you were to make it here in Quebec.
No, it's that I want to eventually, my main goal is to be a big product in the U.S. So as much as I'm dealing with some challenges now, it would be easier because the U.S. is much less regulated, right?
Yeah.
So even with that, it's going to be easier for me to being based in the U.S. and ship it all over the States than it would be for me to have it based in Quebec and ship it all over the States, right? So, what was difficult, also the SAQ is going through a lot of their own challenges right now. They've got big issues within their negotiations between their union and their executives.
Yeah.
And you know they had a lot of strikes. They had a lot of issues with COVID and their distributions and warehouses, and there were massive backlogs. So there have been a lot of challenges of getting product out, and then also just the way that the pricing structure works is pretty savage. Like they definitely make their guap, which is great. You know what I mean? Like it pays for a lot of people's jobs, and
it also pays for a lot of social services here in Quebec.
There's that's it. It's the number one. I think it's like the second or third largest revenue maker for the Quebec government.
Last time I checked, and I don't have the exact numbers, but the last time I checked, I think the profit that the SAQ makes every year was $2 or $2.5 billion per year, which is refunded back into social services for Quebec. So I understand that part too.
It's just when it comes down to the micro. When it comes down to the micro, like I'll explain to you the system. Like, let's say my bottle of vodka cost X to make. The SAQ says, okay, with your profit, how much are you going to sell it to me for? I go I'm going to charge it to you at, let's say, X. They're like, great. That's the money you get. Here's your X. We're going to resell it at 4 times X. Okay.
Got it.
Now, even though,
So if you were to, so hold on. So if you were, it costs you $10. Example, it costs you $10 to make a bottle. You go to the SAQ. Hey SAQ, I'm going to sell this to you at $15 per unit. I make $5, 50%. They're going to sell it at $60.
those aren't the exact numbers, but you're
More
getting
or
it in
less.
principle. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And you have no say over what they sell it at.
Interesting.
So the only way to make that price lower is, say, instead of it being $15, well, instead of making 50% off my bottle, I'll make 20% off my bottle. So I'll sell it to you for 12. And then instead of it being 60, it's 48.
Is every single type of spirit always sold at multiples of 4?
No. So within your category, they have a number of reasons why they get to the number they get to.
Got it.
Where it's coming from. Wines aren't taxed as much as hard liquors, et cetera.
So I'm sure Grey Goose, for example, and because it comes from France, Quebec and France typically have a pretty...
I wouldn't know. I don't
Okay.
know the exacts, but I'm sure that even just the volume that they're buying, that they're in they're definitely more able to.
They have economies of scale.
They have
that
economies
you
of
don't
scale
have.
that I don't have, not even close.
Yeah.
Not yet, but not even close. And now where it gets frustrating is, I'll give you a couple examples. I then want to, because I'm proud of my product and it's your 2-year or 10-year anniversary at KBD, I say, I'm going to give you guys a case of vodka. I have to buy back that entire case at their retail price. I get no discount.
To sell it in your restaurants.
No, even to give it away. If I want to give it away
In Quebec.
in Quebec as promo,
You have to... Oh, no.
I'm paying full retail for it.
Are you listening to this, Joey?
Joey, you get this? You're getting where I'm going with this? Now, it gets worse when it comes into my own bars and restaurants.
Yeah.
So when it's my own bars and restaurants, again, I'm paying retail. Now, remember, I just sold it to them at X, and they're selling it back to me at 4X. It's my... They haven't done... They took a box I gave them, and they're giving me back a box I gave them.
Yeah.
And I'm paying 4 times as much. Now, that's one tax. Don't forget, I'm also paying sales tax on that, right? And then don't forget, after they get the sales tax, the revenue I make at the end of the year, I'm paying income tax on that. So if you think about how much money the government makes on that one bottle of vodka that I sold to them at X, all the way down the line. Now, we're not talking about the employees and the DAS that I'm paying for. This is just, that's just on the vodka, you know? And so as a hospitality and as an alcohol owner of an alcohol brand or partner in an alcohol brand, I can tell you that it's particularly frustrating when we deal with any form of like negative government interaction. So like anything from less than pleasant police officers and morality police to the language laws to, you know, you name it. When the government is attacking the bar and restaurant business, is something that we've both seen for years happen in Montreal or in Quebec particularly. And I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know where that comes from. It's just something that we've lived with here forever. I think it probably stems from the storied criminality of the hospitality industry historically in Montreal. But that's not there anymore.
But it's
right?
like that in every other city. And
It's
example,
less. It's honestly less.
No, but I'm saying the criminality. So if you look at the history, take New York, take Boston, you could take Chicago,
Totally.
you could take
But theirs
take Miami.
got cleaned up
But I just want to say this because I want to make
before ours did.
But I agree and I sympathize with you, and I've seen it happen. I've been there firsthand. This doesn't. When the police come in, they kind of bully or hang around. It's not pleasant when they're inside of the organization, and people end up leaving. Even myself, I'm there. I'm not doing anything illegal, but I go, I don't want to hang around here with 10 police officers inside of this bar.
No,
but I'm just curious, why does this? And again, I'm not like a defund the police. We need to have police officers, and I do respect them to some regard. But there's the other side of it. It's they bully you guys in Montreal,
well,
and it's,
again, I don't blame any specific police officer. I don't even blame the police in general. I think that I can just say that in every other market I go to everywhere in the world, this ranges from Paris and London, LA, Miami, New York.
It's not
Toronto.
normal for police to
It
be
is
there
super
every night.
weird when 10 cops walk into your bar and stop. It's true stories. Start asking every person of color for a piece of ID. That is really peculiar to me. Like, and when I see that and when I call them out, they get offended. I'm already offended. God knows my clientele has the right to be offended. Whether you're a person of color or not, that shit's disgusting. And I see that happen. I've been seeing that happen for 10 years. For 10 years. Now, again, I think it starts with education. I think it starts with normalizing relations. I think it starts with an understanding that over the last 15 years, I can tell you from firsthand accounts that the level of criminality and hospitality in Montreal has evaporated.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe that's because of the cops, right? Now, and I will say that post-COVID, although they were really hard in bars and restaurants during COVID, post-COVID, they've been extremely hands-off. I haven't seen a cop in a bar since that COVID, all the COVID rules and all that stuff.
That's good.
It's been really not, and I've been working for the Merchants Association for Saint Laurent for years. I believe relationships are normalizing, especially on our street, which historically did have a large organized crime component to it. So, I think it's a matter of regaining the trust of police and social services and having them understand that, I'm not a criminal. I have university degrees, as do my partners. We don't deal drugs, nor do we want to. You know what I mean? We don't want to let in underage kids. We don't want to do anything illegal. We're not trying to do cash on the side. You know what I mean? Like we're legit businessmen, and I think that's a big challenge to explain to people. I'm very lucky that I have this kind of reputation, or that we have this reputation of being entrepreneurs, because for the most part, when you're in the bar and restaurant business, you're largely looked at as like a party animal.
Shady,
and like it's been I've been getting weird comments about what I do for a living for my entire life. I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. I'm 33 now. I've been in bars and restaurants for more than half my life. And I always get, the best is when you first meet the in-laws, right? That's the best conversation. So, they have this amazing, you've thankfully dated some wonderful women in my life, got this great new girl, I get to meet her parents. And I come in, I'm bringing my good old Zach energy, and then it's like, so, you work in the bar and restaurant business. Tell me more. Are you a gangster? You know what I mean? Whatever. And I am happy to say that I think that reputation is evaporating in a lot of ways. People are understanding that, as we were speaking earlier, there's a lot of art in the entrepreneur, in the hospitality entrepreneur. There's a lot of like human resources. It's not just a game for tough guys and muscle. There's a lot to be good at. It takes a lot more.
What would you say is your management style? You do have a lot of people.
Unhinged. No, it's not. My management style is not unhinged.
Yeah. Here, you know what? No, let me be more specific.
Please.
So you do manage a large team. You work with a lot of people. You have partners. What would you say, and I'm going to have a follow-up question after this, but let's start with, what would you say you're really good at when it comes to running multiple businesses?
Good question. I think that what I'm good at, I've been blessed and lucky to find great people to work with me. Now, whether that's a skill or a talent, I don't know. But I think I've managed to develop an amazing ecosystem around me that has allowed me to find success. I think that there are moments where I can be motivational, and I hope that I excite or motivate maybe the people around me. That being said, I've also made a ton of mistakes, and I've demotivated a lot of people. If there's one thing that I think I need to get a lot better at as I get older,
that was my next question,
is being a boss. I was exceptionally lucky to be given the opportunity to be a leader at 23 years old. Incredible to be opening up bars and restaurants at such a young age. But in retrospect, I was wildly underprepared and immature probably to handle that level of responsibility. And I've paid the price for that, both financially and emotionally over the last 10 years, where I've made mistakes because maybe I'm too vested in my projects, maybe I'm too emotional, maybe I care too much, or maybe all those things are good, but then because of all that stress or that pressure I'm putting on myself, I expect those people who don't have the same vested interest to do what I would do. But just because somebody works for me doesn't mean they care about something as much as I do, and I can't expect them to be as good as maybe I would be, or maybe expecting somebody to be better at something than I could ever be, right? Let's say a chef that I'm telling him, damn, make your food better, bro. Well, I can't make my food better, right? So maybe I should have learned how to cook. Or if I don't like the way that they present the wine, maybe I got to learn the wine list, you know? So if there's one thing I would say I got to get better at, if there's one thing I'm looking forward to in the next 10 years, I've always kind of looked at my career in 10 year, maybe 5 year, but these days, as I'm getting older, 10 years seems better, you know? This is the 10-year anniversary of us opening up our bars and restaurants. I'm incredibly excited and motivated to start evolving my products to be the products that I want and I will be proud of as a 33-year-old. Now, I'm very proud of what I've had for the last 10 years and what we've developed and what we've built as a team and as a community. But I need to be honest and look at myself and say, the next 10 years are not going to be more of the same. We're going to get better everywhere. And so I've put a lot of pressure on myself. Kind of, it really started in like Q4 of last year, and I worked a lot throughout the holidays, and like I'm really excited for Q1. And this isn't just for my hospitality projects. This goes for Saintwoods too. This goes for our vodka. Like, it's very fun to say I'm an entrepreneur and I own 10 businesses. It's great. Or 8, whatever. I don't even know what it is. 7 or 8, whatever it is. But I really want to be better at my job. And I've done pretty well at being where I am, but I am extremely motivated and borderline obsessed with getting way better at doing what I'm doing right now.
And how, I'm going to ask you a tough question. How, or what I think is going to be tough, because this would be a tough question for me. How are you going to get better at this? Because I know you quite well, and I know you can be impatient, and I know sometimes you can be blunt.
Oh, yeah.
I know sometimes you can be abrasive.
We're going to just keep going now. Are you tearing me down? Yeah, we can keep going?
No, but this is just, everyone has their faults running a business.
Yeah, so I think it's a matter of being honest. And you know what? All 3 of those faults, you're 100% right on.
Because sometimes I've worked with you too, not to the same extent of like how you work with, I've never been your partner, but we've worked, you know, I guess you could say we were competitors with one another, but we work together.
We won't bring that up.
But
Joey, I'll tell you after. No.
I've seen you sometimes, and I think to myself, sometimes you look like, oh my God, this guy must be so fun to work with or work for. And sometimes I've been like, man, I don't know if I don't want to work for this guy. I'm just being honest right now. I've seen you in moments like that. And I'm sure, and I'll just say this too, I'm sure some people feel the same way about me. So I'm not picking on you.
No. And if I'll be honest with you, Curtis, when I look at myself in the mirror and I get home after a long day, bro, the stress I feel or the anxiety I feel when I know I bricked that meeting, when I know I took steps in the wrong direction with a relationship I want to be building with. If you think I'm mad at that person, trust me, I'm angrier with myself, because I think that this last year of reflection, coming out of COVID, kind of looking around and being like, okay, like, you know, that was 2 years in break and then one very intense year. That's kind of what the last 3 years. 2 years off that you didn't want to take off, and then one fucking nut crazy.
And it kept
year.
Changing when you were back.
It was just fucked, right? Yeah. But now kind of there's a little bit more stability. The world feels like it's getting back to its new normal or finding a new normal. But I'm not the same kid I was, right? I'm not. Those 3 years changed you a lot, changed all of us a lot, but changed me a lot as well. You know, we saw some really hard times throughout COVID, really hard. And I think it's important for me to be as honest to myself as you were just with me, that there's days where I go home and say, man, it's got to be fun working with Zach today. But there's also a lot of days where I come home and I go, I fucking ruined that office today. Man, did I torpedo that meeting with the managers. Holy shit, was I rude to that guy that was an investor. Like, that was mishandled. So I think the first step is admitting as entrepreneurs that maybe get a lot of accolades that I'm not as good as people think I am. right? I'm not even as good as I think I am. And
You're human.
I'm less than human, right? No, but I am. I mean,
I wouldn't say that.
No, but I mean to say where I am an extremely passionate individual, and that comes with its pros and cons.
Yep.
And it's important for me to identify those cons and be aware of them, and every day try and get better. And also, don't overuse the word sorry, but never be afraid to admit wrong and apologize. Because there's things that I didn't like that I created that I blamed on other people. And are parts of those realities other people's faults? Yes. But if I am the big boss, if I'm me and Nate are the guys, and I don't like one of these scenarios or one of these environments, well, I use this line a lot recently. It's like, people say shit rolls downhill, right? Yeah. Like if the boss ain't happy, then the VP's not happy, and it goes downhill. Yeah. Well, when there's all that shit piling up, as the guy at the top, you're sitting on a pile of shit, right? So it's important for me, how I'm going to grow, how I'm going to change over the next couple of years, is to get better, not just technically, but also emotionally, and to grow and to understand what causes me to tick, and to A, do whatever I can to avoid those situations, and B, when they do arise, to keep a level head and avoid having those moments when I get home and I'm in my apartment at the end of the day and I'm beating myself up and I'm running through that conversation that I really wish didn't go that way. Because I can be abrasive and I can be direct and I can be blunt and all those things that we mentioned, but I don't like to be that guy. I'm tired of being that guy. I don't want to be him anymore. I want to be motivational. So I'm in a position in my career where maybe it's turning 33, and like I said, 15 years in the business, being able to look at myself and say, maybe you ain't that hot, Macklovitch. Maybe it's time to work on yourself a little bit. And I'm proud of that. And then another big thing is I've been really blessed to have an incredible group of people both work with me, but also around me. I've got incredible chefs, people with an unbelievable wine knowledge, amazing clothing brands that are friends of mine, designers. And thankfully they respect me. And if I ask them to go for lunch and want to ask their opinion or ask for their help, they'll help me. So it's asking for more help and being more real about my own shortcomings, I think, is how I'm going to reach those goals that we're talking about, for the most part.
That was a good monologue.
Thank you. Well, you said it was a tough question. Got to give you a good answer,
Here's another thing that I'm very interested in. So the journey that we're on right now, the journey that KBD is on right now, is, and I've spoken to you about this, I woke up one day and I said, you know what? If we're really going to differentiate ourselves from our competitors, other insurance brokers, other insurance companies, we have to bring more to the table than just, hey, save $400 on your car insurance. We have to be different, which is why we're trying to do things like this, interviews, podcasts, other forms of content, other forms of video content. One thing that...
Can I ask you a question? Quickly?
I was going to ask you first, but go ahead.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think for me, say $400 on your auto insurance. Yeah. Whatever brand, Aflac, whoever the fuck that is, talking about.
Are you giving me a free consultation right now?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
I think that the discount, you'll be more affordable if you come with us, is one value add. I think that so this is my challenge. This is my question to you. What you're talking about with your podcast is creating a lifestyle or creating a voice for your company, getting people to understand you as the founder, getting to understand your values, getting to understand the kind of people you work with, and
putting a face to the
company, and also building a culture around that, understanding the kind of people it is. Now, that isn't as much of a value add. That's like kind of a cultural development, and you're building the culture of your company. In my opinion, I think that a value add would have more to do with the user experience, right? Your UX when it comes to insurance, the relationship you have with your broker. Obviously the savings are great, but how can you make this feel more supported and less, I had a couple tough I totaled a car this year, got another car stolen. I had a couple weird experiences. Our businesses deal with insurance all the time. I think the culture is one thing, but are you also asking yourself, what can you change on the UX?
that is the most important part by far, for sure. This is just more of a brand awareness campaign, I guess you could say. Because when it comes down to it, yes, pricing is obviously important, but the user experience is also extremely important.
And I think often what people get the most fed up, why people change insurance companies is they didn't like their UX. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the app they're using or their online login. That means just the relationship they have with their brokers, the answer they get from their brokers, their expectations versus their reality. I think that's a lot of what bothers
like
people.
A big metric. You're absolutely right. A big metric that we always focus on is hold times when people are calling. But then there's also two types. I mean, we can go down this rabbit hole, but I don't want to talk too much about me, but we'll just make it short. I mean, there's typically speaking two types of clients for let's forget commercial insurance for now. Let's just talk about home and car insurance, because we do all three. I'll put that plug in there. Insurance. Quebec and Ontario. There's two types of clients. There's a client that doesn't care who they speak to, they just want to get an answer right away. And there's a client that always wants to speak to the same person and get them to know their file. It's very difficult to juggle both. We just hired this lady by the name of Pam, and so she's going to be handling our VIP, friends, family, all that kind of stuff, the white glove stuff, I guess you could say. So we're trying to solve that, but then there's a whole other slew of people that go, I don't care who I speak to, just let me speak to someone immediately right now. So it is very difficult to juggle both of those at the same time. One thing we do look at for the user experience for sure is hold times. No one likes to be on hold for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. That's a metric we always look at, and we're always trying to improve. Mm-hmm. But then you also have to have realities. So it's if you're trying to improve that.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
But here, if you can't improve it to the point, if there's no hold time, that means you're overstaffed.
But have you thought about? I get hold time.
Yeah,
I get hold time.
Mm-hmm.
I think where I'm trying to challenge you, what the question I'm actually asking is, I believe that hold time would be a thing that your competitor is also worrying about.
Yes.
What I'm challenging you with is, what are you worrying about that your competitor isn't worrying about?
How well trained our brokers are, and there's some insurance brokers that are better than others. This is just reality in any business. You're going to have
raiders that are better than others.
You're going to have high-level employees, middle, lower end. How can we level up everyone that's there, and how can we make, once the client is on the phone with a broker, how can we make that as enjoyable as possible?
At the end of the day, when you're calling your insurance firm, it's rarely you're rarely in a good mood.
Rarely. I mean, it's most of the time for a change of address, change of car, your renewal,
or you have a claim. And nobody's making a claim with a smile on their face.
No. Especially a home claim.
Yeah, or car or auto, whatever.
Car sucks, but the home claims with a flood in the basement.
Or a fire or whatever.
Yeah, those suck. Yeah, but the floods are super, super common. People get
especially on the island and stuff like that. Okay, we can talk about me now.
Did I answer?
You did.
Did I answer your question?
I want you to think about that, though. That what are you worrying about that you're... Because I get your training, and I think, but if I were to be real with you,
what's the wow factor?
I bet you that your competition is also considering training.
Of course, and I totally agree with you. So the only challenge with insurance, though, is because, especially when it comes to car insurance, but car and home insurance, it's being commoditized. It's a commodity. It's very difficult to offer a super unique experience when you're selling or servicing a commodity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that.
And that's not to say we're trying to improve on things.
That is where, if I was to speak to somebody like at yourself who has a very successful insurance business that's growing quickly, one of the challenges I would ask is, let's say, a consultant or somebody who is like, hey, Zach, how do I grow my business? How do I improve my culture? What can I do differently? Well, ask yourself, what can we do differently? What am I smarter than? Again, this is one of them. This is a part of it, but I don't know how much of this is a value add to your customer. So what can you do differently that your other insurance companies aren't? If you're saying nothing, then what you're doing here is more than enough. But I would challenge you that I'm sure there are things.
It's definitely not nothing, and there's other stuff. For example, last year we tried implementing a chat, and for whatever reason, people in Quebec and Ontario, they barely used it. And what ended up happening was people go on the chat. If you don't answer them within 10 seconds, then they call the line anyways. And then they go back on the chat, and while they're on hold, they'll speak to a broker on chat. They'll wait to actually speak to someone on the phone.
And they'll stop
and then you have two It's really not easy to make people happy when it comes to.
Have you been following any of this chat?
GPT?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Wild, eh?
Amazing chat
Amazing.
GPT.
Wow.
So that's actually something, because we have Natalie's a content creator, so she's our blogger, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
And I was speaking to her about it. The first thing I said was, Nat, don't worry about it. Like, this isn't going to replace your job, because a lot of content creators are like, holy shit, this thing can do my job. But what it can do, and we're looking it up, so especially when it comes to search engine optimization, it's going to be really easy. So once you actually have the keywords you want to go after, and you have all the format, and you have all the questions you want to address,
They'll do all the work for you.
Yeah, it's not always right.
You have to triple check.
Yes, I spent a couple hours on it though, just playing around.
But I would strongly. There was a fantastic. I really like podcasts. One of the reasons why I'm happy to be here today. But I listen to Al Jazeera's The Take really often. I don't know if you know it. It's a really great, interesting podcast. And they interviewed the guy who was in charge of Google's X department, which is essentially like what started like self-driving cars. They're like, this guy's a fucking genius, and he talks about like his concerns with AI. Mind blowing.
I know.
It's really worth checking out. Essentially, we're all going to be unemployed, but it should be fun. We could start doing sports again. So. Yeah.
AI is. Have you ever seen the movie Ex Machina? Ex Machina?
I like sci-fi and stuff like that.
Ex Machina. You ever seen it?
Yeah. We're in trouble. I also play a lot of video games like Cyberpunk.
And remember, you know what? I'm not going to. Spoiler alert. Actually, yeah. Spoiler alert. Remember at the end of the movie. And not only did the AI,
I'll be honest with you, I was really high when I watched it. I gotta watch that shit again. I don't remember this. I think I probably slept through half of it. I gotta watch it again.
Okay, so you know what? I'm not gonna tell you the ending.
Okay.
It's you have to watch the whole movie.
In fact, spoiler, not in.
Yeah.
Keep watching.
It's not a spoiler alert anymore.
All that you know is that I'm gonna watch the movie and then we can talk about it for episode 2 of Zach on the Freemium podcast.
Are you gonna post it on your Instagram?
For sure.
That was my next question for you.
Talk to me.
So one thing, this is something that, personally, I'm not gonna lie. I don't like Instagram. I find that Instagram gives me FOMO. I can't live in the present. I don't like looking at my stories. It makes me go, oh my God, look what everyone else is doing. It looks so fun. And I'm not happy with me being me where I am right now. I find it takes me, it doesn't help me live in the present.
Okay.
It adds anxiety to my life.
I understand that completely.
And, but one thing that I wish I didn't feel this way, because it is a great tool to use to build your personal brand or the brand of a business. And this is something that, again, so here, we're back to pumping your tires.
Let's go, Curtis.
It's something that you're good at. You have...
I'm not even very good at it, right? Like, I got 10,000 followers and 11,000 followers.
I checked today, 11,500. But...
So it's pretty mid.
I understand. But the followers that you have it's a good following. Because sometimes people can have 100,000 followers and they'll get 2 comments.
I make this joke all the time. I think there's 1 million people with 100,000 followers.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that followers means that much. I think that I think what I'm good at or what I like in life is making friends. Whether those be online friends or IRL friends, and often those lines get blurred.
You like making friends, but let's be honest. You look at it, because this is what I do. I look at it as a win-win. I go, you know what? I'll be able to expand my personal brand at the same time, and I'll be able to make a friend. I'm interested in speaking to other people.
So I honestly don't think about it that way.
Really?
At all.
Okay.
I think that for me, I have huge anxiety and insecurity about Instagram. I'm nervous about every picture I post. I overthink it. I thank God for that guy Tom. I think he proofreads everything I post. At least I'm like, am I gonna look lame like this? He's like, yes. I was like, okay, I won't be posting that one. But for me, Instagram is my BBM. It's my MSN Messenger. It's my it's the Zach Macklovitch newsletter. You know what I mean? Like, it's both how I communicate and how I show what I'm doing. Now, again, I think that I'm blessed to live a bit of a high-paced, very fun lifestyle these days. I'm surrounded by people that I am eternally amazed by, and that really I get to live great experiences. And when I get to post those, I get to share what I'm doing with people. I like to share that because I think, without trying to sound overly altruistic, which we both know I'm not, I like to show to people that whether you're a only child from a middle-class household in the West Island or wherever you come from, you can find yourself in some pretty amazing places if you work your ass off and do what you love, you know? And I don't know if that comes off in what I'm posting, or if I always try to remind people that, like, whether it be myself or Nathan or really a lot of the people that we hang out with, none of these super successful people I know, or the vast majority of them, I'm talking like A-list designers, top-notch musicians, whatever, it's rare that they started with anything. And so what I get along with, the reason why I'm friends with these people, is because we can relate to the fact that we've exceeded our expectations or attained our goals at a young age, or at whatever, you know, I like to consider myself still young. I'm 33, but
I think you're young.
I like to think I'm young. Thank you.
I think you look pretty good for your age too.
I do. I've been growing this beard out for about a month.
You have a great skincare routine.
I do. Aesop, baby, sponsor me.
You talk about it all the time.
I do. I actually was thinking about starting an OnlyFans, where I would do shirtless skincare very sensually.
Wow.
Yeah.
After one of your workouts.
Yeah. Make sure the pump's on. You know, give that. It's just an idea I have.
You never talk about the fact you work out all the time.
I don't talk about it online. I talk about it in person a lot. A lot. It's if there's one thing that people who spend any real time with me know, is that I really like talking about myself. I'm a self-promoter at heart. Get that from my mom. Shut up, Marilyn. So yeah, I like to think social media is what you give it, what you let it be. Right, I understand why you feel the way you do, and I feel that way too a lot of the time. But
has it helped your business?
Oh my God, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's unrealistic to think it wouldn't.
That's the thing that's undeniable.
But you have to understand that my business also directly plays into Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, do I think that?
Because Instagram.
Do I think that your Instagram is going to help your insurance firm? No, I think that as your insurance firm continues to grow, and as your personal brand continues to expand, as the owner and cool guy behind an awesome insurance firm that is doing things differently, is making a lot of money, you're driving a nice car, you're going on great trips, whatever it might be, more people are going to start listening to you. Mm-hmm. And the way you can show them your success is by posting that on Instagram. Now, is that kind of a dark way of looking at it, that Instagram is a place for you to show off? Yeah, but that's what people want to see.
I know.
That's what they want to see, that you just got a new watch, or that you finally got that Bronco that they made you wait 12 months for, whatever it might be. But that's what people are going to be like, man, Curtis is fucking killing it. You see that new car he's got? Man, his insurance company must be doing great. Did you hear he started a new podcast? Man, we got to subscribe to that shit. Freemium podcast, everywhere you want to listen to podcasts. No, but really, I think that's, I think that Instagram has obviously helped our businesses. But I think that mine and Nate's personal Instagram has helped Saintwoods. I think Saintwoods' Instagram has helped mine and Nate personal. You know, same for Tom and everybody on our team. Same for the hospitality projects. But the truth is that there's a lot of brands that have far bigger Instagram followings than me, that don't do the sales we do, that aren't in the kind of retailers that we in, that don't kind of get the same kind of international celebrity support that we do. I don't think anything is as important as authentic culture and community. It just isn't, right? You got to believe what you're selling. You got to have people that believe in you around you. You got to have fans of your product. That's what's going to grow your business. The biggest Instagram in the fucking world, if nobody gives a shit, if it's just people subscribing because they want to, like, you know, whatever, great.
I think what you just said is totally true. Having a community, having a network, it's so important. Having a following.
How much of your business, just in comparison, how much of your business would you say comes from referral?
33%.
You would know that. You know that already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I think the bar and restaurant business, like, something that my partner Ray, he's one of the guys that founded Saintwoods with Nate. He's no longer a partner in the Saintwoods company, but he's our main partner. He's the main quarterback of Saintwoods Vodka. Amazing individual. He's actually a director. He got a guy out of jail for a documentary he did. The guy's incredible. This guy, Ray Klonsky. He has this mantra that me and Nate bring up all the time, where it's, I don't know if he came up with it, but I'm going to credit it to Ray. I give this credit to Ray. But for people to believe in your brand, they got to hear about it in 3 different places. They got to see it in the wild. They got to see it out and go, what was that? That was kind of cool. I don't know what that is, but I like the name. I like the ad. What is that? They got to hear from it from somebody that they look up to, whether that be somebody that they know or they don't know, but somebody that they respect. They got to hear that person talking about it. And then they got to see it in the wild. They got to hear from somebody they respect, and they got to hear about it from a total stranger. If those 3 things happen, the person believes that your product exists. It exists to them after that. They'll remember it. And I think that if you distill what that says, it's that you need a wide community and a lot of touch points for people to interact with what you do.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, you know, I think that whatever business you're doing, whether it be a hospitality, whether it be insurance, whether it be clothing, whether it be carpets, you need to make sure that people love your product enough or support you enough or support your community and your culture enough to want to tell people about it. And you got to hope that that trickles down where a friend of a friend of a friend is telling somebody else, and that original person you're trying to target overheard them say it. Right? Now you can do that any number of ways. You can do that through creative marketing. You can do that through giving gifts to people by giving them the best service they've ever had. I just read this great book. I really think everyone should read it. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
You were talking to me about that.
What a book.
What did you take home from that book?
Everything.
Because you've been talking about this. You've been raving about this.
You
made a post on your Instagram about this.
I did a story post. No, it was a hard post. It was a story post. Give me a break. Shit was gone there today, gone tomorrow. But I
actually remember that post because I remember going through. You have great stories, by the way.
Thank you.
And you said something, and I don't know why I remember these two words: dangerously motivated. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a...
Well, it was. So the book
Talk
is
to us about this.
The book is a short read, probably 280, 300 pages, if that, 275 pages, about this guy, Will Guidara, who started off in the hospitality industry very young. And by the age of 25, he was 25 or 26, he was given the helm of what was then a 2-star bistro, part of the Shake Shack group. It was 11 Madison Park. It was the aging from whatever that group is. I can't remember the name of their hospitality group, but he was given the reins of this project, and they had just brought in a new chef, and he explains how through hospitality and through really focusing on offering the best product and making customers feel the most seen and evolving your product and constantly working at it in almost like a Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off kind of way. Him and his partner turned that business from a New York Times 2-star bistro to rated the #1 restaurant in the world. And he did it by being the best boss and the best host he could possibly be. And by empowering people and by giving them the training they need and the time to grow, by giving people challenges that they felt that they could conquer and that motivated them, and creating a culture of excellence. And it was the book. This kind of reflects back on what we were speaking on earlier about me going from the 23-year-old me to the 33-year-old me.
And what did this book?
This book showed me that the feelings I was.
What did it make you realize?
It made me realize that I could do this, that I can improve.
So it gave you
that we can do this. Sorry,
so it gave you
we can do this.
It gave you confidence.
More than confidence, it almost gave me a roadmap. It was definitely. Look, bro, I read it in 10 days to give you an idea. I devoured this thing.
Here's my next question.
By the way, reading is the most important thing an entrepreneur can do.
I agree.
Reading and podcasting, education
totally
it is not networking. It is not even.
It's necessary.
It is if you are not educating yourself.
Totally agree.
Away from your career.
Yep.
You will never grow.
That's one thing I need to improve on. I'm a big podcast. I do listen to a lot of podcasts.
But there's a difference there.
I need to read more, and I know I need to read more. But the question here, I had a follow-up question to that. So after reading this book, do you think that you can achieve the goals that you want to achieve by staying here in Montreal? Do you think
I'm not staying here? So I'm staying here in Montreal in the sense where this is going to be my home base. I'm opening up more businesses here. I don't want to move from Montreal, but my businesses aren't staying in Montreal. I'm expanding. I've already expanded to LA and Toronto. We're expanding to Miami in March. Hopefully New York 2024, Europe 2025, Asia 2027. You know, like that's for Apartment 200. The clothing brand, it's not like I'm just selling at Montreal stores. Sold all over the world right now. I think that Montreal is an incredible launching pad. Incredible. You cannot find a place with cheaper rent and more amazing young people that were willing to work for less than anywhere else in the world because they can still afford to live. Mm-hmm. And they are excited about culture and they're excited about community and they dress well and they're cool and they're plugged in, like Joey over here, who will help you get to where you want to go, you know? Don't get me wrong, I know there's a couple billionaires that came out of Montreal, but if you want to hit those...
None of them are here anymore.
Because if you really want to get to that next level, you need to use it as a launch pad.
Yeah.
But I think that goes for a lot of B cities. Like, I love Montreal. It's an A+ city to me. if you put it on the global landscape,
Not the international.
we're a B city.
Yeah.
What a great B city.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say a bad word about Montreal who isn't from here. If you're
Yeah.
from here, you'll say a ton of bad things about
Yeah.
this place.
Yeah.
But if you're not from here, they love when you go anywhere in the world. You have people from Montreal. They go, "Oh, I love that place.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a cute
It's so
city.
fun. It's so cool. Very European."
Yeah.
Bitch, for sure. Je me parle français. So I think that
So do you see yourself? So you want to keep your residence here in Montreal, just be traveling everywhere?
well, right
all
now
the
I'm
time?
here about 2 weeks a month.
Okay.
My biggest challenge is my biggest fear, or my biggest concern, and what I'm trying to figure out and iron out is with this new culture I want us to reach an overall for all of our businesses. How can I attain that being in the office 50% of the time? It's tough. So I don't have the I don't have the answer, Sway, but
Because that's always one thing, you know. I feel the same way as you. I love Montreal, and it's not like I want to sell the business or anything like that, but I want to go to Toronto. Toronto is, if you want to make it in business in Canada, I feel like it's the place to be. Are there pros and cons to any city? Of course. And I've never lived in Toronto. Every time I go, I love visiting there. I'm sure if I lived there, I'd find some cons.
well, I think that though.
But it's just like the opportunity.
So
the
we
networking,
would not be able to.
I just want to say this though, because the networking I find, and just the people I've met in Toronto, the networking capabilities in Toronto, just because of the scale that's so much bigger than here in Montreal, I just feel like if you really prioritize business, it's the place to be.
So we would not have been able to attain the amount of growth or developing up new markets if we were in a duo, right? Like Nate goes and opens up the projects.
Yeah.
I then manage. This isn't entirely. It's not black and white, but for all intents and purposes, Nate goes and expands, and I manage. I keep what we have.
Your operations.
But I'm not operations because like we're, let's say, the owners of the team. Nate's going to make sure that we buy more teams. Okay? Or develop more teams.
He's expanding the league.
Yeah, he's expanding our impact, or he's putting us in different leagues. He's putting he's whatever. Doesn't fully work for sports, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Now, I have a GM in each spot, and then the GM, you need your offensive coordinator, you need your defensive coordinator, you need your coach, you need your wide receiver, you need your quarterback, right? Nate's goal is to, our goal, but Nate's kind of tends to focus more on getting us to open up more and more teams. Where I'm kind of what my role has kind of become is keeping those teams that we've opened on the right track and moving in the right direction. Because not all of us can do everything, right? To your point, I said this pretty early on in this interview. I don't design the clothes anymore, right? Not that I ever really did. We always had Tom and Nate, and it was more of a community or committee thing. But I was spending so much time arguing with Nate. I wanted it to look one way. He wanted it to look the other.
And you said that the other day.
The best decision we ever made was when I stepped back, I started wearing the clothes more because it wasn't 50% of what I wanted and 50% of what he wanted. He was doing a great job and doing an amazing.
Would you say that they're better designers than you are?
I think that they're doing an amazing job at expressing what the Saintwoods culture is, and they are designing some incredible clothing that I'm so proud to wear and sell and market. I think that if I was the lead designer and Nate was doing marketing, it would look different and feel different. In some ways, and in a lot of ways it would probably be the same, but I'm so proud of what they do. And now when I do have an idea or I do send something to Tom and Nate, it's not like a debate. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. We'll try and include this. It's not like I need to be the biggest dick on this design table. Like, what do I give a shit? Not that what do I give a shit. It's they're doing an incredible job.
Egos are put aside.
Yeah. And I think that that's a big thing. You know, both myself and Nate have pretty big egos. You don't get to where you are. You know, I don't think we would be where we were if we didn't have these egos.
And that's okay.
But you got to learn how to work with each other. You know, there's a amount of times that, like I was talking to Pete about this yesterday. It was a story about my great uncle, who was a fantastic businessman, and he had his business partner from, I think, his mid 20s until they both passed in their late 80s. They were business partners the whole way through. And he had a line. 60 years or something like that. Crazy. They made fortunes together.
Imagine how many stories they have of wanting to kill each other.
No, well, that's it. Is it? He said, "Would you rather hate your partner or hate your boss?"
Good line.
You know, and the truth is that when you are in the trenches and you go to war, which is what we do every single day as entrepreneurs, to your point, when you were saying the kind of people who listen to this podcast are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, that's the hardest job in the entire world. I mean, probably being like an emergency, like an EMT or like a fireman's definitely harder, or like in the military or some shit. But being an entrepreneur, the emotional stress that you go under,
that's the big thing that
it's mentally draining. But just to finish the point I was making, was that you can choose to be a solo warrior. You go to battle with somebody every time. Like I'd rather go to war with Nate up by my side as often as possible. We don't always agree on the same battle strategy or on the best first play or second play, but you got to have a bit of give and take there. Sometimes he listens to me and sometimes I listen to him, you know. Most of the time we're just both listening to Thomas. So it's just overall it's a team sport. And if you try and do it all on your own, let me say this to all aspiring entrepreneurs out there, it's going to be really hard. And I personally think it's more fun finding a business partner or
you need someone who you can bounce ideas off
and when it comes to that expansion as well, right? Like I wouldn't be open in Toronto and LA if I didn't have Nate that could go to Toronto and go to LA to open up these projects. Period. Just, that is a
full stop.
That is full stop.
Yeah.
I would never have done that. I wouldn't have been able to do that. But that being said, and not to toot my own horn, I don't know if Nate would have been able to do that if I wasn't here to watch our shops here.
And that's what makes
to make sure that
a good team.
But the amount of people who come up to me and say, "Don't you feel some type of way that Nate's over there? Look at him. He's always giving the finger in his pictures. Always on a beach, shirtless, working out. He looks so fucking happy and cool. Look at you. You're stressed and miserable. You don't even have a tan." That's what they'll say to me. People say crazy shit like that sometimes. And it doesn't bother me. Like when I tell you, I lose sleep over a lot of things. My business partner having fun in a new market does not bother me, no matter how hard it is here. Because it might look like Rose is opening up a new bar or restaurant, but that's fucking impossible. Going out by yourself into a new market, often underfinanced, no real connections, pounding the pavement to find a location, find a lawyer, get your license, that's a hard fucking work, period. And I thank God, I'm not a religious man, but I thank the big man every day that I got a partner who's got the cojones to go out and do that, right? Because that's what's helping us expand right now. And does that mean that I get to watch the home front? That ain't that bad, bro. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I think that I always know the level of immaturity of an entrepreneur or somebody who's like, I want to talk to you, I want to be an entrepreneur. Doesn't it bother you the way that Nathan is gone and you're here? I'm like, man, you don't get it. You know? You ain't there yet. You'll see you'll see what it's like.
There's like it takes two to tango.
Yeah,
and that's a sign of a good partnership.
But for us, it takes 10 to tango. Because I also have Pete here. I got Kit in Toronto. I got you know what I mean. You need to have partners that have strengths that you don't have. Yeah. Period.
And it doesn't work. Like if you're there, so for example, it doesn't work without them, and it doesn't work without you.
Yeah. That's when I say I think Nate was the first yin to my yang. It was somebody that could I'm a talkative, chatty, overly friendly dude. Nate's a little bit more quiet and reserved. And don't get me wrong, he's unbelievably nice and smart, and he can talk about anything in the world, but he's more reserved, you know. That's proved to be great with us, you know. I get along very well with the rappers' managers. Nate gets along very well with the rappers themselves. Like it's like we both have our different demos.
I want to finish up here.
We got to be done already? 10 minutes, damn. I could stay here all day. We should have a radio show.
We're gonna do a second one.
We have to.
Yeah, we'll do a second one. I just want to finish up, and we can even you can even perhaps give a little teaser for the next one. So you ran for, or you wanted to? No, this is super cool. And you ran to be the mayor of the Plateau, Montreal Plateau.
I did.
This was a couple years ago.
5 years ago.
Jeez, 5 years already?
4 years ago, I think so. It was 5 years during COVID, or 4 years during COVID.
What did you learn about municipal politics or politics in general? This is a super broad question.
Yeah,
we can start scratching the surface a little bit.
I think that I hear your question, and I will answer my own question.
Rule number 1 of being a politician.
Yes, I hear what you said, and now I will answer my own way.
Yeah.
No,
that's actually, by the way, like that's one of the first.
Did you hear about this politician in New York? The
about
guy.
What happened?
The guy. He's a Republican, but he ran. He said that he would like worked at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup and all these crazy things.
Fake.
It was all fake. His whole CV was fake.
I mean,
and they caught him.
Not the first time.
No, but it's hilarious. Like the depths. He said he had a charity that saved thousands of dogs. Never had a charity.
Oh
like,
my God.
Guy was pretty questionable.
Interesting.
Yeah,
dog charity.
Pretty questionable dude. But he's like, I'm still gonna run. He won this seat. They can't.
He still won.
He won, and he's not.
Okay, they found out after he had already won the seat.
And he's not. And he's in Washington at the House of Representatives. He refuses to resign. Kind of crazy.
Politics. It's so greasy.
It's super greasy. So
how was Montreal politics?
Oh, well, I'm gonna start by saying how I got there.
Okay.
I'll say how I ended up in that position.
Yeah.
You know, there's like that there's like that like audio tidbit on TikTok. It's like, and this is when I realized it all went wrong or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason why I ended up there. So when we first opened up the bars and restaurants, I was invited to run for the Merchants Association, to be on the board of executives for the Merchants Association of Saint Laurent. I've worked at the SDBSL, which is the largest merchants association in Montreal, which makes it one of the largest ones in Canada. So we represent, I think, 10,000 businesses. We have a $2 million a year budget, all to like raise awareness about I think maybe more than that, but all to raise awareness about our street, what goes on, and support the merchants and businesses there. I'm now the VP of that board, but that's how I first kind of got into politics, because we deal a lot directly with the borough and a lot with like elected officials, because we need to ask for permits and we need to ask for them to change the laws or to give us government support, whatever it might be. At the same time, I'm the music director for the art festival in Montreal, which is the Mural Festival. And we're actually the largest art festival in Canada and the largest street art festival in North America. So I do all the music programming for them as well. Funnily enough, maybe this might be a little nepotistic, but the SDBSL is one of the major partners of the Mural Festival because it happens on Saint Laurent, so we finance them quite a bit. I've obviously been very implicated in both the festival and the board now for close to 10 years, and it was through those networks that I met the mayor at the time, Denis Coderre. We hit it off. We really got along. At the time, I think I was like 25 or 26 years old when we first met, maybe younger. I think we first met, I was like 23. We became friends until I was about 26, and that's when he asked me, it was 26 or 27 was when he asked me to run for office. And I was like, Denis, I don't know. Like, I did study political science. He said, listen, you got to run against Luc Ferrandis, who I had some negative experiences with. He since had a nervous breakdown and resigned. Guy's a bit of a character. And he said, you just have to run against him. I just want a young candidate, but I don't really think you have a chance of winning this race. He's the head of the opposition, and I think you'd be a good kind of balance. And this was an election that Denis was expecting to win outright. The election circuit starts, and the media, Denis had made a couple decisions that we disagreed on that I wish he would have chose otherwise, but I think that the media really got him for. The Pitbull ban was like a weird choice. I did not agree with that. I felt that it was going to alienate a lot of people, and the interesting thing was that it wasn't even that's not even for him to make. Like that's a provincial decision. It doesn't need to be municipal. Like he could have just been like, oh, that's up to the province. Like I don't need to involve. I'm sorry that this happened to this woman, but like I'm not going to ban these dogs, right? He chose taxis over Ubers. Now, he did that because he wanted to ensure that as the section of the population that taxi drivers are a part of continue to support him, because he already had a lot of population in that demographic. Yeah. What he failed to realize is that by choosing that, he was alienating all the people that used Ubers that were arguably way more than the taxi thing, right? And the young people and this and that. And then he made a couple other decisions where he didn't talk about the e-race and all these. He made a couple weird, he chose some weird talking points, put it that way. And the media just started hammering him nonstop. Well, all of a sudden, I had to get myself in the ring. It wasn't so much just, hey, I want you to just sit there. It's like, Zach, I need you on this radio show, or hey man, we're going campaigning today, or hey, I need you to be beating the path. And, you know, shout out to Nate. From the beginning, he's like, this is a fucking bad idea. This is a terrible idea. It's like, well, you're not going to have any time for our shit. Nate, I got this. He was right. I had no time. I was completely overworked. We had too much shit going on. He never wished me good luck. Day of the election, man never wished me good luck. He was right, though. And it was an incredible, it was an incredible learning experience. I'll say on one hand, the thing I felt disappointed about was that when we were running the campaign, when I signed on, I was expecting to maybe have a little bit more of an infrastructure and a stronger campaign manager and really like more funding to kind of do advertising and things like that. Like that wasn't really there. Maybe I was holding myself to more of like an American political standard rather than a Canadian municipal standard. It's one mistake I made. The other thing that really blew me away though was just how much power municipal politics holds. They decide everything. You think that it's not a big deal to be a city councilor. They decide noise ordinances. They decide permits. They decide how your streets get repaired, if they get repaired, where your money's going. They spend your tax dollars. These random politicians who are often getting into politics, and I don't want to knock them, because they don't have other things going on. And that's where I think we have a huge issue in Canadian politics right now, is that we both love politics. We talk politics all the time. Sidebar, we talk politics all the time. Neither of us, I tried it. I'll tell you straight up, I ain't doing that again. They don't pay enough to get good people to get involved. So one of two things happens when you don't pay enough. You get somebody who's underqualified for the job because they're willing to do something that's very hard for not the right amount of money. Or you get somebody come in who's going to try and steal money from you or ingratiate themselves by their position, whether that's through, I'm not saying everyone's taking bribes, but, you know, supporting their friends, a little bit of nepotism, et cetera, et cetera. We have a huge issue in Canada right now where we have an incredible surplus of amazing, young, intelligent, educated people. And I will say none of them I speak to, at least not enough of them, are implicating themselves in municipal politics. There is nothing that speaks more to your day-to-day life than who is running your city hall. You would be shocked if I could tell you all the things that they control. You'd be blown away. And on episode 2 of the Freemium podcast with Zach Macklovitch.
I think honestly that's actually a really good place to leave it.
Yeah, I do too. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you for
Joey,
coming
you're
on,
a fucking
man.
G, man. More love to Joey. More shit. You got to get a camera on Joey next time.
No, it's like the kind of the running joke is, if you watch the Joe Rogan podcast and there's Jamie in the back, no one's ever seen a photo of Jamie. So just go, Jamie, can you look that up for us, please, on Google? And he'll look it up and he'll post it on the screen. No one knows what Jamie looks like, and it's been 10 years. So, but
well, I don't know if Joey has to be Jamie. Maybe Jamie's hideous. And maybe Joey's this cute, cool guy from Vancouver.
He's got a great mustache.
I actually came with a bit of a mustache. I was working on
That's not a mustache.
And on the second episode of the Freemium podcast, we'll be debating facial hair. Thank you, Curtis.
But Zach, thank you so much.
Congratulations.
So once again, this is Zach Macklovitch.
What up?
Saintwoods.
What up?
Apartment 200. Saintwoods
Vodka.
vodka.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Is there anything final say? Would you like to leave the podcast with, the Freemium podcast with?
Well,
Did a great job today, by
thank
the
you.
way.
I had a good time. If there's one thing I could say to the kind of people who I think like to listen to this podcast, all 12 of you. No, I'm talking shit.
Not far off.
No, but I think if there's one thing to say, it's being an entrepreneur. When you really care about something, if you decide to be an entrepreneur and to work on the stuff that you really care about, it's gonna be really hard, and learn to love the ups and downs rather than chasing the ups, because you're going to have more downs than ups. And if you spend all your time only waiting for the good moments to smile, you're going to burn yourself out. And that's something that I can say after 10 years of beating the shit out of myself, that I'm starting to realize that it's important to go home and laugh at the good times the same way you go home and laugh at the bad times, or whatever, vice versa. Laugh at the bad times the same way you laugh at the good times. But yeah,
Well
best of luck, y'all crazy motherfuckers.
Well said. Thank you very much, Zach.
No doubt, excited for the next one.
When are you coming on next?
I think we do a monthly. No, I don't know. Let's give it a couple months. Maybe after the dive bar opens, after
Sure.
Miami, we do something. Give you a little update once the second version of the vodka comes out.
Sure, I'd love that.
Great.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Zach.